I am my mom's son. I'm 6. Bye.
Hi, welcome to Canning with Kate. I'm sorry for that little introduction. That is my son Jacob. He loves to keep me company in the kitchen, so he is here with me, and I'm sure that he will be popping in and out for a surprise little visit. But I am so glad that you are here with me this morning or this afternoon, and please like and subscribe and come can with me. Today we are going to be canning Sloppy Joe. I had a whole bunch of extra ground beef. I like to get the giant tubes from Sam's Club. I just think it's a better deal, and then I get to can things with it. So, or we make burgers and freeze the burgers, whatever we feel like doing with that. So I had just previously canned chili, and I still had about 4 pounds left of ground beef, and so I wanted to do something else. My kids love Sloppy Joe. They love Sloppy Joe, and it is such an easy recipe to make. So I'm going to be canning up about 5 quarts. That would also be about 10 pints. My math might be a little off. So about 10 pints or 5 quarts, depending on which you prefer to do. So I'm going to be canning up quarts. I was also thinking that this is something that is really great just to have on the shelf, because a lot of times I feel like there's so many soups and stews and kind of like cold weather foods that go onto the pantry shelf, and my family doesn't really eat a whole lot of soups. So we have the chili. I just canned the chili, and I don't want to do another soup, so I thought that the Sloppy Joe is a great thing and that you can eat year-round. My kids can just grab it off the shelf if they're hungry one afternoon, and they can make their own Sloppy Joe sandwiches. And so that is kind of where I'm going to start trying to add more to my pantry instead of the more cold weather stuff. I want to do something that can be eaten more, year-round. So I have 6 pounds of ground beef. I had 4 pounds left from my Sam's bag, and then I was able to find 50% off of the pound ground beef at my local grocery store. So, and it was already on sale, so I picked up 2 more pounds of this ground beef. So that is going to go into the stock pot and start heating up to brown it. So that's a total of 6 pounds of ground beef. I am using the recipe from the complete guide to pressure canning from the Canning Diva, who is Diane Devereaux. So I would definitely encourage you to go ahead and pick this cookbook up, because it has a bunch of recipes that you might not find in other cookbooks for canning. So, and this is just a super easy one. All right, so we have the 6 pounds of ground beef. I have a 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar. We need yellow mustard. I have already chopped up, it's 1 cup of green bell peppers, 2 cups of onions, and 6 cloves of garlic. So I just put everything into this because it's all going to go in at the same time. Then I have tomato sauce. We needed 4 cups of tomato sauce. I did not can this one. I just had extra, and I put it into this jar in the fridge. Then you're going to need 2 cups of beef broth, Worcestershire sauce. Does anybody know how to say that right? And apple cider vinegar. So, and then salt and pepper. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get my ground beef browned. I'm just gonna do that on a medium-high heat for about 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna start throwing in the other ingredients. So I will go and brown the ground beef, and then I will bring you back. See you in a minute. Okay, so I'm back. I have drained the grease from the ground beef, and I've put in the 1 cup of chopped green peppers. I've put in the 2 cups of diced onions. I've put in the 6 garlic cloves and the 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. And then I just sauteed all of that together for about 5 minutes. Now I'm going to go ahead and put in the rest of the ingredients. All right, so we're going to simmer this for approximately 10 minutes once everything is in. So I have 4 cups of tomato sauce. So I actually had to open another can because what I had open wasn't quite enough. So I'm just very thankful that I had enough already put away, otherwise this would not be going well. All right, then I have to put, I believe it's 1 tablespoon of mustard. Yes, okay, so 1 tablespoon of yellow mustard. Goes in there. Mix that a little bit. I hope I drained that well enough. It's still looking pretty soupy. All right, then I'm going to put in my 1/4 cup of packed brown sugar. Now, for this, because I really try to keep sugar out of my family's diet as much as possible, much to the chagrin of my kids and my husband. I'm the one that's making stuff, right? I'm the one that's cooking, so I'm going to make that choice. So once they start cooking, they can make their own choices. But until then, I'm going to try and make this as sugar-free and as tasty as possible. So this is an option. Let's say that you have a diabetic in your family and you really want to cut out as much sugar as possible. Or you are just really trying to follow a different, like a keto diet or a paleo or whatever. There's all kinds of things out there. There's all kinds of reasons to not have sugar in your diet. So if you want, you can use alternative sweeteners. I prefer Swerve for things like this because it's a 1-to-1 mixture. So it's the same thing. You don't have to do any conversions or anything like that, which I prefer. Or you can use stevia or Splenda if you choose to do a Splenda type sweetener. Or you can just use brown sugar and you would still use the same 1/4 cup. But if you are choosing an alternative sweetener, just make sure that if you need to convert, if it's more sweet or not as sweet as regular sugar, that you kind of do the conversion to make it equal that 1/4 cup sweetness. I put a 1/4 cup of apple cider vinegar, and now we are going to go ahead and put in 2 cups of beef broth. Okay, so I'm going to do something that may not necessarily be what other people would suggest, but it's my kitchen and this is how I roll sometimes. And I had extra chicken broth. I know chicken and beef are very different, but this is a very, very light flavored chicken broth. And I need to use it because otherwise it's going to go bad. So I'm simply putting in 1 cup of chicken broth so I can use that and know that I'm not wasting anything, and I'm mixing it with the 1 cup of beef broth. So if you are all like me and sometimes you have extra ingredients that you know might work in place of what is being called for, use it. Like, I would much rather not waste something than waste something simply because I want to stick exactly to a recipe. All right, so this is it. Super, super simple. Okay, 10 minutes, simmering for 10 minutes, and I will be right back. I think I have a crying child, so I need to run and go find out what's wrong. Okay, so we have simmered the sloppy joe for 10 minutes. Crisis was averted. My daughter was just coming down the stairs and she was singing. She wasn't crying, so sometimes you don't quite know which one it is. But today it was singing, so everything's fine. I am going to go ahead and start ladling in the sloppy joe into my jars. I have 7 jars, 7 quarts. Now the recipe does say it's going to only make about 5 quarts. I always like to have a little bit extra. I like to make sure that I have enough jars to fill up my canner completely. And then if I don't have enough, then it's okay. You know, I just have super duper clean jars. But today I'm going to show you something else that I'm going to start doing myself. You don't have to, but I found it out on a thread from one of my Facebook canning groups, and I thought it was a fantastic idea, so I am going to start doing it myself, and I'll show you what that is after we get this set up. All right, so ladling. Last time I forgot to debubble. I'm going to make sure I debubble this time. If you don't debubble, it's not the end of the world, but as in previous videos, you can see that if you do debubble, sometimes you will see that the headspace in your jars lowers, and that just means that there are air bubbles in there that were preventing the headspace from being proper, and at some point those are going to come out, whether it's in your canning or when you debubble. So it's always a good idea to do it. Hold on one second, please. Okay, I had to go help my daughter with something real quick. So, debubbling, it's always a good thing to do, but I am pretty sure every single experienced canner out there has at least one time not done it, and their food is fine. It has not been an absolute disaster. It's just always a good rule of thumb to do it. So I am reminding myself through you to hold me accountable to do my debubbling today. All right, now this is going to 1 inch headspace, and any meat product that you make, you are always going to process for 90 minutes if you do it in quarts, and 75 if you do it in pints. So that means that if you are doing a chili that has meat in it, instead of like a bean chili, even though you have beans in it, you're going to always process it for the longer ingredient time. And it's super important to do that, to get the proper timing, because I overfilled that one. It's just about making sure that the ingredients that you use are going to be properly processed, to make sure that every bacteria is killed. And that is why there are certain times for certain foods. And I may be what I consider a rebel canner, but there are some things that I will not budge on, because I never want to do something that is going to be unsafe or unhealthy for my family. Or if I ever give, you know, my canned food as gifts, I never want to be worried that what I make is going to seriously hurt somebody else. I don't ever want that on my shoulders. So yes, there are certain things that I might can that are considered rebel, but it's not because it's unsafe. It's simply because it has not been tested thoroughly enough, and so that's why I do it. But I just want everybody to understand the difference between the two. Yep, I definitely overfilled this one. So I'll need to take some stuff out, because that's like only a 1/2 inch of headspace. Headspace is important, again, because if you have too little headspace, then it may not seal properly. If you have too much headspace, again, it may not seal properly. But too much headspace, I'm not sure if that's always a big deal, because I will can potatoes without any liquid. And so there's, at the end, there's a good amount of headspace with that. So I don't know if you are an experienced canner and you do know the answer to that. I would love to hear it. So I'm gonna grab a spoon and remove some of this liquid and add it to my other jars. Okay. So I think this one doesn't have enough. Well, they're actually all pretty good. Okay, so all of these are full to 1 inch headspace. I do have a little bit of sloppy joe left, but it's not enough to even fill a tiny jar, so I'm going to just kind of save that and put that in the fridge. Now, what I'm going to show you next is I only have 5 quarts of sloppy joe. Now, my canner can hold up to 7 quarts at a time. So I want to be able to start filling it no matter what. And somebody mentioned, well, several people have mentioned that they add just a jar of water, and they process a jar of water if they don't have a full canner. So that's what I did my last canning session, and you see I labeled it water, and that's when I did it. I processed it exactly the same as I did with the rest of my stuff. It was chilly at the time that I did that. And so now I have shelf-stable water that is completely good to drink and to cook with. So if there's ever a power outage, or if I ever need water and I can't get water, then I have it on my shelf, and it's not in a plastic bottle that will start to erode and put toxins into the water. So it's in a glass jar, it's sealed, it's good for, you know, forever, and I've got that prepped on my pantry now. So if you want to do something like that, then I mean, for water, there's no time that's going to be like too much time. So you can process it for 45 minutes, you can process it for 90 minutes, you can process it, you know, however long the rest of your food is going to be processed for, and then you have perfectly shelf-stable, clean, clear drinking water on your shelf that you don't need to worry about ever needing water, not having it. So that's what I'm going to start doing. So I'm going to fill these up with my filtered water, and then I'm going to go ahead and wipe the rims of my jars off with white vinegar, because this is more of a greasy type of food. So I'm going to go grab a towel and put it in white vinegar, wipe the rims of my jars, fill these up with water, and then I will bring you back and we'll put the lids on. Okay, so I have my clean towel, and I've got it going into just some regular white vinegar. All right, and wipe down these rims. it's very important to get these rims really clean and wiped down, because anything that if you get some food on there or some grease and it doesn't get wiped off or cleaned off properly, then the seal's not going to stick there, and it will prevent whatever you have in there from sealing. And I don't like it when my food doesn't seal. So you gotta make sure that gets really nice and clean. And it's always a little bit harder, I think, with greasy meat products. It's not like it's it's unhealthy greasy, it's just because meat is greasy, right, in itself. So I'll make sure I go over that a couple times. Right, and then I've got my water. My water's actually in my canner right now. I'm just kind of trying to warm it up a little bit before I put everything in and before I seal those, because there is a possibility if you put cold jars into your hot canner that the jars will crack, and I don't want to lose the jar either. So, all right, now I'm going to go ahead and put my lids on. Go. My rings, remember to tighten them fingertip tight. So they were starting to be a little bit of resistance. I'm just going to tighten it just a little bit more. Too tight and the lids are going to buckle, and you typically don't want to put buckled lids on the shelf. You would want to eat those first. And that's a really hard thing to find. Like when I was first canning, I did have buckling lids because I had no idea what I was doing, and I didn't have anybody teaching me except what I was trying to find online. And very few people actually mention buckling lids. And so over the past couple of years, I found out that it's because I tightened the rings too tight, or you get really cheap lids and they just buckle. So it was probably my user errors. I was probably tightening them too tight. Okay, so I'm going to put these in the canner, and I'm going to bring back the water, and I'll show you the water. Still going to wipe off my jars of water, just because it's a good habit to create. Okay, now the lids are going to go on. And my rings. Okay, there's one. And I'm one ring short, so I'll have to go find one. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay, found it. All right, so now this is the jar of water that's going to go in. It is filtered. Our water is really, really awful where we are, so I don't want to put some nasty water in there, and just hope and cross my fingers that it gets cleaned up while it's processing. I'm going to go ahead and put this over there. before I end this session with you, I wanted to just go over the importance of making sure that you check your lids. There is a huge issue going on with canning lids lately. A lot of the ball lids, they used to be super good with their seals, and now they're not so good anymore. A lot of people are having problems with the ball lid sealing. I don't know exactly why, but that's something that I've noticed on occasion as well. And there's a whole bunch of different other companies that produce canning lids. A lot of people have their favorites and they have never had any issues. Other people have had things happen with those same lids and they don't like them. So it's kind of a very difficult thing to decide what kind of lids you're going to be getting. I would definitely suggest don't go for the cheapo lids, because just because they are more inexpensive does not mean that they are quality. So I am actually going to be going and purchasing some Superb lids. They're called Superb, S-U-P-E-R-B, and those are American made lids, and I've heard so many good things about them. They have a better seal, they have a thicker seal on this is a better quality seal, and people have never had any issues with them from what I've heard. So I'm going to start doing that because I've started having more and more issues with my lid sealing. I also wanted to show you that it's good to check your lids, because I am somebody who does reuse lids. I make sure that they are still in good shape and still in good condition before I will reuse them, but I do reuse them. Again, that's a personal choice. But I don't know if you can see here, I just noticed I was going to use this, and then I checked it, and all this rust is on this lid. This lid has gross stuff on the outside. This one has rust on it, and this is from Halal's Canning. I used to love these lids, but I don't anymore, which is unfortunate because I have a lot of them. And then some of the lids that I have are dented. Like you can see right here that it's dented. So this is, again, not a lid that you would want to use. Now, some of the lids will come that way. Some of them will come scratched. And because they're scratched, you know, depending on how long your food is on the shelf, this is what is going to end up happening. Is, you can't really see that, but here's the rust. You're going to start seeing that rust because this white part is a coating to prevent the lid from rusting. And so I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that you really need to do your due diligence in checking your lids and making sure that they are good quality and that they're not scratched and that there's no bubbling, no buckling, and definitely no rust. So those lids are going to go in the trash for me, and I'm going to be looking into purchasing some of the Superb lids very soon. Okay, so that's it. That's all I wanted to share. And so now I'm going to be putting my lid on my canner. I'm going to let it start venting. Once it vents, I'm going to let it vent for 10 minutes. Then I'm going to put my weight on my jiggler and bring that up to pressure of 10 pounds for my elevation. Then once it gets to pressure, I'm going to start the timer for 90 minutes. After 90 minutes, I'm going to let it bring down to pressure of 0. And then I am going to just kind of let the lid go for a few more minutes, and then remove the lid, let them sit in the canner because it's really cold over here. And so I'm going to let it just sit with the open lid in the canner for probably 5 or 10 more minutes, and then I'll remove them and just set them on the counter for 12 to 24 hours. And then I will wash my jars, remove my rings, and then wash my jars, and then put them on the shelf after I label them. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. I hope that you try this recipe and that you come back for more. And so please remember to like, please remember to subscribe and share. All right, I hope you have a wonderful night, and I hope you have a wonderful canning. Bye.